The latest entry in the Need for Speed collection, Unbound, takes place in Lakeshore, a city surrounded by mountains, farmlands, and smaller towns. The story follows two childhood friends, Yaz and the nameless protagonist, aka the player. They both work for Rydell at his auto shop, Rydell's Rides, where they get to fix cars and work on their own illegal street racers. After a falling out, the protagonist is left with Rydell, and no fast cars to use anymore, forcing them to work their way back up the racing scene.
Yo, Tess.
What?
The cops were on me immediately.
What?
I would say the only things to really worry about for the kids would be some of the songs. They like to use some pretty mature language. And, of course, the constant breaking of the law. Running from the cops, destroying their cars, may not be a good thing for kids to be exposed to, depending on the age, of course. After choosing a character and designing their outfit, it was time to start racing. The very beginning kind of felt like a tease, giving me a pretty decent car to race with during the tutorials. After the story gets going, I was forced to start over with some real junkers, slowly getting that necessary need for speed. Lakeshore expands a big area, allowing for a lot of discovery in an open world. In between races, there was a lot to do. There are different activities and collectibles to be found in every section of the land. The activities are things like trying to hit a specific speed for a speed trap, or traveling a specific distance after hitting a jump, all of which would grant a small amount of money for every level of accomplishment. And the different collectibles to be found would give different effects that can be equipped onto the vehicles. So the game moves through a day and night cycle, kind of like the last Need for Speed, Heat, but unlike Heat, all races are illegal and have a chance to attract the cops, who will try and run down every racer by whatever means necessary. There's a calendar now too. Every Saturday will be a qualifier race, rewarding a decent car for the winner. That is something the player can't lose, but more on that later. There are different races available depending on if it's day or night, with more popping up as I'd upgraded my car. I really didn't like how there's a sort of gatekeeping aspect now when it comes to races. First, I had to actually put money down to participate in the race. Some I could join for free, but the reward money was not very high. I would start a day with only so much money I could spend from the bank, and after I would spend some money to start a race, I would win some money back. But I couldn't actually spend that money until I got back to the garage, ending the daytime and starting the night cycle. So in the beginning, I couldn't race very much in a single outing. And money wasn't the only thing keeping me from races. Every race has a required rank that my car has to be. That tiny aspect really caught me by surprise for my first qualifier. I had got a new car, spent all my money upgrading it, and I just so happened to pass the rank I had to use for that qualifier, so I got stuck using my junker to go through those races. And let me tell you, those races were not fun with that car. There are a total of 5 ranks a car can be depending on the parts installed. We had B, A, A+, S, and S+. Naturally, the higher the rank, the higher the difficulty, speed, and reward. So, the most important race each week will be the qualifier. The entire story spans 4 weeks, so 4 qualifiers. In order for the story to progress, the qualifier races have to be won. If I had failed a race, I got the option to retry or go back to the previous Friday so I could better prep for the qualifier race. Even though I've been playing Need for Speed games for quite a while now, I wouldn't say I'm a professional. But never before have I had such a hard time at the beginning of a Need for Speed game. Unbound really hurt starting out. I could literally feel how crappy the car was I was trying to race with. I even went as far as lowering the difficulty, and it really didn't feel like that helped much. There were 3 difficulty levels, and the only things they changed were the life of the car and how many retries I could get in a single day. And on top of trying to race with a shoddy car, the AI was super cheesy hard. Like, the other racers would somehow know when I'm using NOS and use it at the exact same time I am. So they would stay right where they were before I started. If I ever managed to get at least second place, the other racers behind me would rubber band right up to me and pass right before the race was over. And the cops seemed like they were only ever after me. I mean, sometimes they would hold up the computer racers, but most of the time they were surrounding me. That first qualifier race I was really sucking at, a couple 100 yards behind first and second place, when the cops show up, completely ignoring first and second place, sticking to me, messing up my speed times. But after the first week, I was able to have a healthy bank supply and a few cars in my garage, making the game much easier. I was able to go through multiple races in a single day, and the upgraded cars were so much nicer to handle. I would say it took about 4 hours to get to that point. Afterwards, the game became much more enjoyable. The computer would still try and pull some bull crap on some races, which usually resulted in a retry, but at least that wasn't very consistent. The game played great. Now, it may be hard to tell if you'd watched my live stream. For some reason, this game just did not want to be streamed. I experienced extreme lag issues, there was odd graphical bugs that were showing up here and there. Sometimes black bars would just display across the screen. There was an odd bug that would glitch my car off the screen in a fraction of a second. That glitch really started to hurt my eyes, and it destroyed a couple chances at winning races. I ended up finishing the game off camera and experienced no issues during that time. So I would say if you're not streaming, I wouldn't expect too many technical difficulties. Electronic Arts went a different direction with the art for Unbound, adding graffiti-like effects to the car when it would take a certain action, like peeling out or flying through the air. At first, I thought it would be pretty distracting trying to race and all this coloration popping up in the middle of a race, but it happens so fast and it stays out of the way. I could even decide what type of effects to equip my car when something was happening, like the color of my peel out or the wings I would have when the car was flying. Speaking of customization, cars can be made wholly unique to the player. Besides parts, I could actually change every aspect of the car, from front to back, adding different wraps, decals. Hell, I could even decide what type of paint to use. And customized cars can be uploaded and shared with everybody else who plays. Because of this, if one didn't really want to put a whole lot of work into the visual aspect of their car, they could download a really cool looking wrap created by another player. And that just about covers everything. So I guess it's time to place it on a shelf. I thought it might be fun if you took a second to guess what shelf I might be placing this on, given everything you've heard so far. So, I'm gonna close the curtains, start the drum roll, and give you some time to leave it in the comments. And bottom shelf. Now be honest, how did you do? I love Need for Speed games, and I enjoyed my time with Unbound, but Heat was so much better. I spent about 14 hours here to beat the story, and I'm done. So, now that we're done with that, it's time to move on to the next one. I will see you there. Bye!